says this, John says this, sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 coloured colonnades. I want you to notice here all the detail that John gives us about this pool and about the colonnades and about the gate and all that kind of stuff. You'd only know that if you'd been there. That's why John is able to give us all of this detail. So now we go on to find out what happened in the story. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralysed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" See, this pool, a whole kind of myth and a legend had grown up around this pool. And it was that when the waters bubbled or stirred, which they did periodically, if you dived down into the pool, if you were the first one to get into the pool, then somehow this angel that was stirring the waters would heal you. And so people who were unwell or unhealthy or who couldn't walk or who were lame or blind, they headed to this pool, and often they lay there all day, every day, waiting for the waters to bubble and to try to be the first one in. And included in this bunch of people was a man who'd been unable to walk for 38 years. And Jesus arrives. And it's interesting that Jesus arrives in this place, because this was a place where healthy people didn't go. Because you've got to imagine, you've got people who are sick and unwell, who can't move oftentimes, lying around in the heat of the sun all day, every day. It was a filthy place. It would have been a horrible place. It would have been smelly and dirty. It's not the place where healthy people went. But you see, Jesus is a person who goes where other people won't. So Jesus is there and he says to the man, "Do you want to get well?" And the man doesn't answer straight away, really, or doesn't give a straight answer to the question. Look at what he says. "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." So this man isn't able to get into the pool. He's not able to get in quickly enough to be healed. He doesn't realize that in Jesus there's somebody who can bypass all of that legend and myth and do something extraordinary. Look at what happens next. Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." And at once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. So we've had the event, this meeting by the pool, and now we get the sign. And the sign is that Jesus heals this man. And look, I love this language that he uses, "get up." John would have written this originally in Greek. And in the Greek, this phrase could also be translated "wake up" or "rise up" or "come to life." I love that. Jesus is bringing life to this man. Come to life. And the healing is immediate. The man doesn't need to do anything. There's no confession of sin or strange ritual to go through. No, he just obeys. And immediately he's healed. And then Jesus does something really interesting. He says, "Pick up your mat and walk." Now, why did he need to do that? I don't want us to miss this point. This is really important, and we'll see why. Because Jesus has a point to make about his identity. So he says to the man, "Pick up the mat and walk." And here we find out why. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath, so one of these Jewish festivals. And so the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." See, on the Sabbath, there were all these laws governing what you could and couldn't do. Actually, this isn't true. The written law didn't forbid that. It was something called the oral law, because these religious leaders, they took the written law that God had given and they added all this extra interpretation to it. They created 39 categories of forbidden things for the Sabbath, including carrying something. And I think Jesus knew that, and I think Jesus had a point to make. You see, the religious leaders were more interested in the law than they are in the miracle, in the sign. They don't give a stuff about the man. I mean, this man's been healed, his life has been changed, and all they're worried about is the law. The whole point of the Sabbath was to take a break from work, not from love. They were missing the point. Now, this man, he doesn't share their concern about the law, not unreasonably. Let's look what he says. He says, "But he replied, 'The man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk.'" He says, "I don't know about all this religious law stuff. All I know is I've got new life. And I've got this joy of new life, and it's taking over. I picked up my mat and I walked because a man who healed me told me to. A man who loved me told me to. So I opted for him, not the ones who've been ignoring me my whole life and who don't care about me.